Cal, one of the big issues now for all concerned there in Malta is the weather and how you might say that may affect issues of people trying to evacuate from Libya.
Well, it's knocked us off the air for the time being, certainly, which means it's going to knock all the communication systems down, or what little existed as the situation continues to deteriorate. It's about 14 hours by boat from Malta to Tripoli, another 14 hours back. With this weather, the high seas, a lot of governments who were trying to get their citizens out were planning to do it by air. When that didn't work and planes kept getting turned around, just circling over Tripoli, coming back to Malta, people started shifting, focusing on perhaps getting people out by boat. With the weather now, that's obviously a concern. It's interesting listening to our earlier guest from the State Department, Mr. Carpenter. I think the conversation about a no-fly zone is going to be the conversation over the next 24 to 48 hours, especially with this weather. Now, you mentioned we do have a ship that is just off the coast here of Malta. It is a Libyan ship. We're not sure exactly why it's there. We've been in touch all day with a senior source from the Italian military. He's telling us that they have eyes on the ship. They have 5 F-16s up in the air, circling over that ship, trying to see what it's up to, what it's doing. Is it defecting, or is this perhaps a warning from Gaddafi to Malta, to Italy, sending a signal saying, I'm not done yet, I could still sort of reach out and hit you if I needed to.
And what's the status then, if that's the problems with the weather itself there, Cal, what's the status of this naval vessel that was in the vicinity of Malta? Do we know anything more?
Well, we don't have any communications between the Italians and the naval vessel. They're just looking at it from above, and that's a growing concern here when you talk to senior government officials in Malta. They'll tell you there's nobody on the other end of the phone in Libya to call and ask what's going on to clear this up, because the concern, again, is that Gaddafi could be reaching out. He could be making a statement, I'm not done yet, I'm not going to go without a fight, and that's becoming a huge security concern on the ground here. We have in Malta, they've revoked all passes for soldiers. Nobody can go on leave. In Italy, all of the bases in southern Italy have gone on to high alert. So certainly this is not just a humanitarian issue now, it's becoming a security issue for the countries that are surrounding Libya.
And of course for Malta, the problem is great in the sense that with no communication with Libya, its representatives in Malta also distancing themselves from the regime in Tripoli. It's who does Malta deal with in trying to sort out how to coordinate the evacuations out of Libya and onto Maltese territory?
So this is exactly the question, and we were at the embassy today and we saw protesters calling for Gaddafi to fall down, calling for Gaddafi to step down, and in the middle of the protest, some embassy employees walked out of the Libyan embassy, walked across the streets, across the police line, and joined the protesters. Now, that's certainly a sign that people are, fighting for this, that they're going for democratic reforms. But if you're the government here, as you well pointed out, there's a continuity problem. There's a problem of command and control. If you're the government here, you want somebody to pick up that line. It's no different than when Egypt fell and when Mubarak fell. The Israelis suddenly didn't have that line. They couldn't pick up the phone and call Egypt to check on the border. That's exactly what we're seeing here. And of course, Malta is becoming the main exit point for all of the people that are fleeing Libya, all of the expatriates from all of the European Union countries. So you have the smallest European Union country sitting on the edge, and it's now becoming one of the most important countries because it's becoming responsible for everybody else's citizens.
And of course, as a focal point, we'll be coming back to you, Cal, in Malta as that situation develops. Thanks for joining us on the phone. Now to one of our other major stories from around the world, and that's the fact that the rescue operations are continuing throughout the night in Christchurch, New Zealand, following that 6.3 magnitude earthquake. At least 75 people were killed as hotels, churches, offices and homes just collapsed. A state of emergency has now been declared and the airport and parts of the hospital are closed. Around 300 people are estimated to be missing. It's a developing situation. Our correspondent there, Andrew Thomas, joins me now from Christchurch. Just scenes of devastation, Andrew. How is the rescue operation progressing?
Well, there really are devastating scenes here all over this city, particularly in the city centre where the tallest buildings are. We're about a kilometre back, though, and you can see this one of the churches in Christchurch, and it's been pretty much destroyed. The windows all completely gone. There's rubble strewn all over the road as well, and big cracks down this building. All Wednesday morning there have been aftershocks here in Christchurch. Some of those aftershocks enough to sway you off your feet, and this church that we've now been standing by for a little while has swayed very precariously at times. That is even more the case in the centre of town, where some of the tallest buildings are. The Grand Chancellor Hotel, the second tallest building in Christchurch, has now been declared completely unsafe. They're very worried that that may topple at any time. It's already leaning very precariously over to the left. New Zealand's Prime Minister looking at the damage in the centre of town, looking at the rescue efforts on Wednesday morning. Before he left Wellington, though, there's another shake just then, just at that very moment, my feet went. But before the Prime Minister left Wellington, he gave a very emotional address to the nation.
All New Zealanders have a piece of our heart in Christchurch. All of our lives are touched by this event. A friend or a family member who lives there, a time spent studying or a memorable experience there. We feel connected to your suffering. Your tragedy is our tragedy. Today I want Christchurch to hear this message. You will get through this. This proud country is right behind you, and we are backing you with all our might. The world is with you. Our Australian friends, our British and American friends, the great countries of this world are putting their shoulder to your wheel. They are sending their support, their expertise, their people to help us. Christchurch, today is the day your great comeback begins. Though your buildings are broken, your streets are washed and your hearts are aching, your spirit will overcome.
Andrew, it's inevitable, we presume, from what authorities are saying, that death toll will increase as time progresses. So how important is it that the emergency services and international help get in to try and help those that might still be trapped?
Well, it's obviously vital. I mean, there are lots of rescuers in the centre of the city at the moment. They're all being arranged around a big art centre as a kind of coordination centre, and they're going out from there. They're doing what they can, but these buildings, as I was saying a moment ago, are in a very, very precarious state. And what they don't want is for any of the rescuers to put themselves in danger as well. 300 people missing at the moment. That doesn't necessarily mean missing, presumed trapped or dead. There could be some mix-up, people who haven't been able to contact relatives or relatives haven't been able to contact them go down as missing. But nevertheless, 75 is the death toll at the moment, and that is expected to rise. This morning, hopes raised. 15 people were believed to be trapped inside the main television centre in the centre of town. Great hopes that they might be able to be rescued, and then that seemed to be false hope. Rescuers said, after all, what they thought were sounds coming from within that destroyed building weren't. They have now redirected their efforts to another building, which I'm afraid is code for them thinking there's nobody alive in that building. But another big building, another office block in the centre of town, 8 people so far on Wednesday have been pulled from that building alive. So some very good news there. One woman who was trapped under the rubble for more than 25 hours, and she was pulled out about 2 hours ago now. So still hope that some people can be rescued. But obviously with these aftershocks, which keep coming every 15, 20 minutes or so, some more violent than others, with those aftershocks, these buildings could still come tumbling down. So the danger, both for those still trapped